Shalom Aleichem, peace be upon you, and welcome back to the broadcast. It's Friday, November 30th, 2018. Today we are resuming our reading of the book of Jubilees, which was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And if you've never heard of the book of Jubilees, and you're curious about what it is, then you need to go back and listen to episode 1, because I do an introduction and I talk about that, and I talk about why we're looking at it, and all of that. Today, we're going to look at chapter 3, which deals with the creation and fall of Adam and Eve. And if we have time, we'll also take a look at chapter 4, which deals with, well, quite a bit of things. And it even mentions and talks a little bit about the fallen angels. And of course, it goes into more detail about that in chapter 5. But we won't have time to get into chapter 5 today. What's interesting is all these ancient texts that were found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, the book of Jubilees, the book of Enoch, they all confirm what the Bible talks about in Genesis chapter 6, that the angels came down, and this is how the Nephilim got on the earth. Peter talks about those angels being bound up. Jude quotes from the book of Enoch. I mean, it's all there in the Bible, yet it seems to be completely lost on the church. In addition to it being all throughout the Bible and very, very clear, unless you're intentionally trying to make it not be there, the book of Jubilees, like I said, confirms this. And of course, the book of Enoch gives us the most details about all of this. So that's one reason why we look at these historical books, which are, like I said, are included in some Bibles around the world. The Ethiopic Bible, as an example. They were found with the Dead Sea Scrolls alongside all the other scriptures. So you take that information and do what you will with it. Okay, let's dig right in. We're looking at chapter 3, the book of Jubilees. Verse 1. And on the 6 days of the second week, we brought, according to the word of God, unto Adam all the beast, and all the cattle, and all the birds, and everything that moves on the earth, and everything that moves in the water, according to their kinds, and according to their types. The beast on the first day, the cattle on the second day, the birds on the third day, and all that which moves on the earth on the fourth day, and that which moves in the water on the fifth day. And Adam named them all by their respective names. And as he called them, so was their name. And on these 5 days Adam saw all these, male and female, according to every kind that was on the earth. But he was alone, and found no helpmeet for him. And the Lord said unto us, It is not good that the man should be alone. Let us make a helpmeet for him. I want to stop real quick. When you're reading this, the book of Jubilees makes it sound like the angels are having a part in creation. He said, and even in the book of Genesis, he says, let us make man in our image, right? And so the age-old question is, who's he talking to? And most Christian theologians look at that and assume that it's the Trinity, right? Like when God says, let us make man in our image, he's talking about all three of his persons that make up God, all three of the Godheads, so to speak. And if you read the rabbis, they just kind of blow this off and don't talk, there's one God, so you don't know what this means. And so I'm not sure either. It could be the idea that it's the Trinity, but it also could be that God did allow the angels to at least obviously God is the creator and all things were created through Jesus Christ, but maybe they were just kind of present for the creation. Who knows? But that's how the book of Jubilees makes it sound. And the book of Genesis, like I said, God says, let us make man in our image. To me, it makes more sense, the most sense, that it's talking about the Trinity, which is what's commonly taught by the church throughout history. Anyway, let us make a helpmeet for him. And the Lord our God caused a deep sleep to fall upon him, and he slept, and he took for the woman one rib from amongst his ribs. He took for the woman one rib from amongst his ribs, and the ribs was the origin of the woman from amongst his ribs. And he built up the flesh in its stead, and built the woman. And he awakened Adam out of his sleep. On the awakening he rose on the 6th day. And he brought her to him, and he knew her. And he said unto her, This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She will be called my wife, because she was taken from her husband. Therefore shall man and wife be one, and therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. In the first week Adam was Adam created, and the rib his wife. In the second week he showed her unto him. And for this reason the commandment was given to keep their defilement, for a male 7 days, and for a female twice 7 days. And after Adam had completed 40 days in the land where he had been created, we brought him into the Garden of Eden to till it and keep it. But his wife they brought in on the 8th day, and after this she entered into the Garden of Eden. And for this reason the commandment is written on the heavenly tables in regards to her that gives birth. If she bears a male, she shall remain in her uncleanliness 7 days according to the first week of the days. And 33 days shall she remain in the blood of her purifying. And she shall not touch any hallowed thing, nor enter into the sanctuary until she accomplishes these days, which are enjoined in the case of a male child. But in the case of a female child, she shall remain in her uncleanness 2 weeks of days, according to the first 2 weeks, and 66 days in the blood of her purification. And they will be in all 8 days. And when she completed these 8 days, we brought her into the Garden of Eden, for it is holier than the earth besides, and every tree that is planted in it is holy. Therefore, there was ordained regarding her who bears a male and female child, the statute of those days, that she should touch no hallowed thing, nor enter into the sanctuary until these days for the male or female child are accomplished. This is the law and testimony which was written down for Israel, in order that they should observe it all these days. In the first week of the first Jubilee, Adam and his wife were in the Garden of Eden for 7 years, tilling and keeping it. And we gave him work, and we instructed him to do everything that is suitable for tillage. And he tilled the garden and was naked and knew it not, and was not ashamed. And he protected the garden from the birds and the beasts and the cattle, and gathered its fruit, and ate, and put aside the residue for himself and for his wife. I want to stop for a second. Adam and Eve were brought into the garden, according to this, and of course according to the book of Genesis. And they were charged with caring for it and taking care of it, okay? Now remember, this is God's perfect situation. This is paradise, the Garden of Eden. Notice that Adam and Eve are not sitting around on clouds. They're not, in complete boredom. God has things for them to do. They're taking care of the garden. Now, there's been no curse on the land, so taking care of the land is not a painful thing that requires the sweat of your brow, and there's no thorns or thistles but Adam was in charge of protecting the garden from animals and tilling it and caring for it, and they would eat the fruit of that. I do not think the kingdom of heaven is going to be this boring place where everybody's just sitting around on clouds drinking tea, which is kind of like what people think. And people aren't excited about heaven because it's like, okay, great, there won't be any suffering, but they associate it with complete boredom. God's going to have work for us to do. It'll be enjoyable, it'll be what we want to do, but you're not going to be doing nothing. Adam and Eve had responsibilities to care for the garden. This great Garden of Eden, which I'm sure was beautiful and amazing, and it was their absolute joy to care for it. But I just want to bring that up because I feel like people's perception of what heaven's going to be, because this is where we're going. We're going back to the garden, so to speak, right? Verse 17. And after the completion of the 7 years which he had completed there, 7 years exactly, and in the 2nd month, on the 17th day of the month, the serpent came and approached the woman. And the serpent said to the woman, Hath God commanded you, saying, You shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And she said to it, Of all the fruit of the trees of the garden God hath said unto us, Eat. But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden God hath said unto us, You shall not eat thereof, nor shall you touch it, lest you die. And the serpent said unto the woman, You will not surely die, for God knows that on the day that you shall eat thereof, your eyes will be opened, and you will be as gods, and you will know good and evil. And the woman saw the tree, and it was agreeable and pleasant to the eye, and that the fruit was good for food. And she took thereof and ate. And when she had first covered her shame with fig leaves, she gave thereof to Adam, and he ate. And his eyes were opened, and he saw that he was naked. And he took fig leaves and sewed them together, and made an apron for himself, and covered his shame. And God cursed the serpent, and was wroth with it forever. And he was wroth with the woman, because she hearkened to the voice of the serpent, and did eat. And he said unto her, I shall greatly multiply your sorrow and pains, and in sorrow you shall bring forth children, and you shall return, and return shall be unto thy, and you return shall be unto thy husband, and he will rule over you. And Adam also, he said, because you have hearkened unto the voice of your wife, and have eaten of the tree which I command you, that you should not eat thereof, cursed be the ground for thy sake, thorns and thistles shall it bring forth to you, and you shall eat your bread in the sweat of thy face, till thou return to the earth from where you were taken. For the earth you are, and unto the earth shall you return. And he made for them coats of skin, and clothed them, and sent them forth from the Garden of Eden. And on that day on which Adam went forth from the garden, he offered a sweet savour, and offering frankincense, galbanum, and stacte, and spices, in the morning with the rising of the sun, from the day when he covered his shame. And on that day was closed the mouth of all beast, and cattle, and of birds, and of whatever walks, and whatever moves, so that they could no longer speak. For they had all spoken one with another, with one lip, and with one tongue. Now, I'm hoping that you caught that. I actually did a whole video on this. It's on YouTube somewhere, on my YouTube channel. I did a whole video and a whole podcast about this, that the animals, according to the book of Jubilees, before the fall of man, were able to speak. Now, you might think, oh, that's ridiculous, that's crazy. Well, let's start with this. When the serpent tempts Eve, notice she doesn't react and go, whoa, a talking snake. Right? It's almost like it's not unusual to her. And if we add that one, plus we have Balaam's donkey, God uses to talk to Balaam in the Bible. We have 2 instances of animals talking in the Bible alone. And of course we have all the mythology and stuff, which I think a lot of, those legends, there's truth to some of those legends. They come from somewhere. I believe the animals did talk. And according to the book of Jubilees, up until the fall, they did speak with one language. And once the fall happened, it says that their mouths were shut. Verse 28 says, and on that day, or the day that Adam went out of the garden, I should say, and on that day was closed the mouth of all beasts and cattle, and of birds, and whatever walks and whatever moves, so that they could no longer speak, for they had all spoken with one another with one lip and one tongue. And he sent out of the Garden of Eden all flesh that was in the Garden of Eden, and all flesh was scattered according to its kind and according to its types, into the places which it had been created for them. And to Adam alone did he give the means to cover his shame, of all the beasts and cattle. On this account it was prescribed on heavenly tables as touching all those who know the judgment of the law, that they should cover their shame, and should not uncover themselves as the Gentiles uncover themselves. And on the new moon, on the 4th month, Adam and his wife went forth from the Garden of Eden, and they dwelt in the land of Eldah, in the land of their children. And Adam called the name of his wife Eve. And they had no son till the first Jubilee, and after this he knew her. Now he tilled the land as he had been instructed in the Garden of Eden. Let's move on to chapter 4. Hopefully we've got time here. And on the 3rd week in the 2nd Jubilee, she gave birth to Cain, and in the 4th she gave birth to Abel, and in the 5th she gave birth to her daughter, Awan. And in the 1st year of the 3rd Jubilee, Cain slew Abel because God accepted the sacrifice of Abel and did not accept the offering of Cain. And he slew him in the field, and his blood cried from the ground to heaven, complaining because he had slain him. And the Lord reproved Cain because of Abel, because he had slain him. And he made him a fugitive on the earth because of the blood of his brother. And he cursed him upon the earth. And on this account it is written on the heavenly tables, Cursed is he who smites his neighbor treacherously. And let all that who have seen and heard say, So be it. And the man who hath seen and not declared, let him be accused, accursed as the other. And for this reason we announce when we come before the Lord our God all the sin which is committed in heaven and on earth, and then the light and the darkness everywhere. And Adam and his wife mourned for Abel 4 weeks of years. And in the 4th year of the 5th week they became joyful. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bare him a son, and called his name Seth. For he said, God hath raised up his second seed unto the earth instead of Abel, for Cain slew him. And in the 6th week he begat a daughter, Azurah. And Cain took Awan his sister to be his wife, and she bare him Enoch at the close of the 4th Jubilee. And in the 1st year of the 1st week, and in the 5th Jubilee, houses were built on earth. And Cain built a city, and called its name after the name of his son Enoch. And Adam knew Eve his wife, and she bare yet 9 sons. And in the 5th week, in the 5th Jubilee, Seth took Azurah his sister to be his wife. And in the 4th year of the 6th week, she bare him Enos. He began to call on the name of the Lord on the earth. And on the 7th Jubilee, in the 3rd week, Enos took Noam his sister to be his wife, and she bare him a son in the 3rd year of the 5th week, and called his name Kenan. And at the close of the 8th Jubilee, Kenan took Mahulaleth, his sister, to be his wife, and she bare him a son on the 9th Jubilee, and in the 1st week of the 3rd year of this week, and called his name Mahalalel. And in the 2nd week of the 10th Jubilee, Mahalalel took unto him his wife, to wife Dinah, the daughter of Berkiel, the daughter of his father's brother, and she bare him a son in the 3rd week in the 6th year, and called the name Jared. For in his days the angels of the Lord descended on the earth, those who are named the Watchers. And they should instruct the children of men that they should do judgment and uprightness on the earth. And in the 11th Jubilee Jared took to himself a wife, and her name was Barakah, the daughter of Rusajal, a daughter of his father's brother, in the 4th week of this Jubilee. And she bare him a son in the 5th week, and in the 4th year of the Jubilee, and called his name Enoch. Alright, real quick, I want to point something out when it's talking about the Watchers here. Let me go back to, it says right here, talking about the days of Jared, right? For in his days the angels of the Lord descended on the earth, those who are named the Watchers, that they should instruct the children of men, and that they should do judgment and uprightness on the earth. You know, it appears, according to this writing here, and even in the book of Jubilees, that they were supposed to teach righteousness. Like that was what they were supposed to do. But of course we know that instead they lusted after the women, and you know the rest of the story. And of course when we get to chapter 5 we'll be reading more about that. Let's move on, we're running out of time here. And so Enoch is just born. There's 2 Enochs, by the way. But now we're talking about the Enoch, Jared's son. And he was the first among men that were born on the earth who learnt writing and knowledge and wisdom, and who wrote down the signs of heavens according to the order of their months in the book, that men might know the seasons of years according to the order of the separate months. And he was the first to write a testimony, and he testified to the sons of men among the generations of the earth, and recounted the weeks of the Jubilees. And he made known to them the days and the years, and set in order the months, and recounted the Sabbaths of the years, and we made them known to him. Of course, right there it just described the book of Enoch, and says that Enoch was the first person to learn how to write, and he wrote down all this stuff. And of course, the book of Enoch is full of all those signs and cycles according to the heavens and all of that. And he wrote down the prophecy and the judgments from the beginning till the end. So the book of Enoch, extremely important. And maybe once we're done with Jubilees, although it's going to be many weeks, we can revisit the book of Enoch or something. Verse 19. And what was and what will be he saw in a vision in his sleep, as it will happen to the children of men throughout their generations until the day of judgment. He saw and understood everything, and he wrote his testimony and placed the testimony on the earth for all the children of men for their generations. And in the 12th Jubilee, on the 7th week thereof, he took to himself a wife, and her name was Edina, the daughter of Daniel, the daughter of his father's brother. And in the 6th year in this week, she bare him a son, and called his name Methuselah. And he was moreover with the angels of God these 6 Jubilees of years. And they showed him everything which is on the earth and in the heavens, the rule of the sun, and he wrote down everything. And he testified to the watchers who had sinned with the daughters of men. For those had begun to unite themselves, so as to be defiled with the daughters of men. And Enoch testified against them all. And he was taken from amongst the children of men. And we conducted him into the garden of Eden in majesty and honor. And behold, there he writeth down the condemnation and judgment of the world, and all the wickedness of the children of men. And on account of it, God brought the waters of the flood upon the land of Eden. For there he was set as a sign, that he should testify against all the children of men, that he should recount all the deeds of the generations until the day of condemnation. And he burnt the incense of the sanctuary, even sweet spices acceptable before the Lord on the mount. For the Lord hath 4 places on the earth, the garden of Eden, the mount of the east, this mountain on which thou art this day, Mount Sinai, and Mount Zion, which will be sanctified in a new creation for the sanctification of the earth. Through it will the earth be sanctified from all of its guilt and its uncleanliness throughout the generations of the world. And in the 14th Jubilee, Methuselah took unto himself a wife, Edna, the daughter of Azrael, the daughter of his father's brother, in the 3rd week, in the 1st year of this week. And he begat a son, and he called his name Lamech. And in the 15th Jubilee, in the 3rd week, Lamech took to himself a wife, and her name was Betanos, the daughter of Barachiel, the daughter of his father's brother. In this week she bare him a son, and called his name Noah, saying, This one will comfort me for my trouble and my work, and for the ground which the Lord hath cursed. And at the close of the 19th Jubilee, in the 7th week, in the 6th year thereof, Adam died, and all his sons buried him in the land of his creation. And he was the first to be buried in the earth. And he lacked 70 years of 1,000 years. For 1,000 years are as one day in the testimony of the heavens. And therefore it is written concerning the tree of knowledge, On the day that ye eat thereof ye will die. For this reason he did not complete the years of this day, for he died during it. At the close of the Jubilee, Cain was killed after him in the same year. For his house fell upon him, and he died in the midst of his house, and he was killed by its stones. For with a stone he had killed Abel, and by a stone he was killed in righteous judgment. For this reason it was ordained in the heavenly tables, with the instrument with which a man killeth his neighbor, with the same shall he be killed. After the manner that he wounded him, in like manner shall they deal with him. And so it's saying here that, stones fell on, his house fell on Cain, and stones killed him. And it's kind of like that idea that you live by the sword, you'll die by the sword, right? It's that principle. Now, the book of Jasher says that Cain was killed in a hunting accident by Lamech. So, which story is true? It's hard to say. Like I said, this Jubilees was actually found with the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's in some Bibles around the world, so I put more weight on Jubilees. Jasher is referred to in the Bible a couple of times, but the unfortunate thing is we don't have much manuscript evidence to back up that the book of Jasher we have is the real book of Jasher. The book of Jasher is really close to, like, the Talmud, as an example. And of course, the Talmud we don't give any credit to because it's a book of blasphemy. It blasphemes Christ. It says that he was possessed by devils, that he is burning in his own excrement. So we give no credence to the Talmud at all. It's just a bunch of writings of the rabbis, which is what most Judaism. This is what people don't understand. Most Judaism is not based on the Torah. It's based on the Talmud, which is just rabbinic writings. And so when I'm looking at this stuff, obviously I don't give any of this the same credibility that I give the canon, our Bible canon. But if I had to choose between the two books, I would choose Jubilees for sure, just because of the manuscript evidence and because the book of Jubilees is in some Bibles and has been forever. So that's kind of where I land on that, but to each their own. Let me read this last verse here. And in the 25th Jubilee, Noah took to himself a wife and named her and her name was Zara, the daughter of Rachiel, the daughter of his father's brother, in the 1st year of the 5th week. And in the 3rd year thereof she bare him Shem, and in the 5th year thereof she bare him Ham, and in the 1st year in the 6th week she bare him Japheth. And that is chapters 3 and 4 in the book of Jubilees, and I am out of time. I hope that you're enjoying this study. I'd love to hear about it if you are. That's all I got time for this morning. Peace and grace be with all of you, and until next time, God bless.